Tim Cook at the annual shareholder meeting said, and I believe this is a quote, that Apple's going to break new ground in generative AI. I assume he's meant this year, but it seems like with that part he didn't say. He didn't say this year, right? He just said Apple's going to break new ground.
So the first paragraph of the Mac, the 9 to 5 Mac, which I think was actually the first. They're doing some killer work there. I think that they were the first to report on this. Was that they expect to break new ground on generative AI. Now, a shareholder meeting is like a weird thing, right? It's not an earnings call. It's not whatever. It's like where shareholders. Most of them don't go to Cupertino to do this. They vote by proxy or whatever, and it's like they vote on different proposals. If there's new board members up, it's that kind of stuff. And at that meeting, he said like he believes that Apple's going to break new ground. The question is like, are you just talking about new ground for Apple? Because that's a pretty low bar, right? I don't think Tim Cook would have said that though if he doesn't at least feel like he has the marketing message behind something that is unique and different than what is already out there. Like if they just add Magic Erase to the iPhone Photos app, like that's not breaking new ground, right? Like it'll be new ground on the iPhone, but it's not breaking new ground. So I think they must be planning for something. So hopefully it's better Siri. That's all I ask for.
I imagine it is that. I mean, WWDC is a few months away now. iOS 18 and WWDC is going to be a whirlwind because now they got Vision OS. They have AI generative features. If the voice assistant is going to be a main staple as part of the keynote. But what I'm curious about is if they're going to break new ground, and the word generative, because that's what Tim Cook is talking about, generative AI, which everything we just talked about with Google Gemini and things like DALL-E, image generation. I wonder if Apple is going to be able to protect themselves or have enough safeguards where here's a useful thing that if Apple adds generative AI features to Keynote, their slide application, and you're going to make a Keynote and you need an image of something, and you can just type in the little chat box in Keynote or ask Siri, make an image of a microphone because it's a slide about podcasts or whatever. If you can generate images in Keynote, I feel like you could generate images Apple would not want you to generate. And just like the user did with Google Gemini generating 1943 German soldiers, I'm very curious how Apple is going to protect itself from people sharing screenshots of Keynote generating images that might be offensive or might be, like the Google Gemini one where it's just, gets a lot of heat. There's going to have to be some safeguards on it. And I imagine Craig Federighi is probably going to have a lengthy part of the keynote to talk about the safety and privacy and security implications of whatever generative AI they're going to be providing. And I have a feeling it's probably going to be very limited. You go to DALL-E, Google Gemini, at least until recently, you can basically type in whatever and it'll generate images. And I imagine Apple's going to have some pretty hard rails about what can be generated, where you can generate it. Like, I don't think you'll be able to open Spotlight and say, show me pictures of whatever. But I'm just very curious to see how they're going to incorporate this in a quote unquote safe, secure, private way, and one that doesn't make them look foolish or make them look or put them in a position that Google is now in a position of. So we'll see.
Yeah. Have we seen, I can't remember if we've ever seen John Giannandrea at like WWDC. I was trying to find out, but he's the head of Apple's machine learning and AI strategy. And I'm like, will we start to hear from someone like you mentioned Craig Federighi, which made me think about it. I'm like, actually the person that we probably would want to hear from is their AI chief, like the person who is kind of responsible for that. I don't know. Like, so I would be surprised if the first thing we see from Apple is what you described, which you can actually do that with Microsoft's tools, right? Right. Their pitch is actually not as much, I'm making a slideshow and I need this image, create it for me. It's more like I have a proposal in a Word document. I need to turn it into a presentation. Hey, Copilot, take my document and make me a presentation, and it'll just do that for you. And you have to go back and edit it and stuff, but it'll actually go through, summarize it, figure out what your points are, make you bullet points, create backgrounds, do all those types of things, which is fascinating and amazing. I wouldn't be surprised if Apple's looking at something like that, but the truth is I don't think that its iWork suite is the area that's going to most benefit from these types of things. I think it's going to be making Siri, because if you think about where ChatGPT started, it was like a better chatbot. Now, the next level of that is incorporating it into other things. I think we're looking hopefully at like Siri 2.0, where when you talk to Siri, one, it actually understands you and it can actually go out on the web, find the information, and then just summarize it for you. Because the most frustrating thing is when you ask Siri something, it's like, here are some things I found on the internet. I'm like, I can do that. I know how to use the internet. I was hoping I could save some time by just asking you and you would just tell me. But Siri very rarely will do that. Instead, it's like, here, just do this. I'm like, what did you actually save me? What intelligence is happening here? And sometimes, and so we often will just ask like the Nest Home Hub Max that sits in our kitchen, and we'll just ask that. Right. And if you ask that, the advantage that thing has is it'll just like read you a Wikipedia article if it doesn't know the answer. But at least it's just telling you the answer it found somewhere. So I'm hoping
you don't have to take another action.
Yeah, you don't have to like, click
pull
through
out your
and
phone.
read something. Yeah, exactly. So I'm hoping that is like where they're focused. And then I wouldn't be surprised to see stuff in the Photos app where it's like remove distracting backgrounds. Like take out this, lens flare that's blocking my son's face or whatever it is, or get rid of this person in the background that's, doing something weird while we're all at the beach or something like that. So that's probably where it will land, I'm hoping.
And Apple, they lift subject from background has been around since iOS 16. So they're already those kind of features. They're not super surfaced. Like the common user might not even know they're there unless they accidentally like tap and hold on a subject in a photo. But there's also a bunch of TikToks. Like those are some of the most popular TikToks after iOS 16 was like, look, you can lift your dog out of a photo and make it a sticker in iMessage or whatever. But I will say this is John Giandrea on Apple. This is the Senior Vice President, Machine Learning and AI Strategy, which, look at that, Apple has the word AI right on their website. So, they're not shying away from it anymore. And I will say, if Apple, I'll also apologize if we've set off everybody's HomePods by saying the wake word 1,000 times in this episode. We'll try to do that again. But if Apple can actually get the chatbot side where the voice assistant is good, they now have an entire network of HomePods, of iPhones, iPads, Macs. Like it's going to immediately be better everywhere. Where when you think ChatGPT, while they do have an iPhone app, it's just not built into the devices, and so Apple could have a huge head start when it comes to actually deploying the voice assistant across a wide range of users where, it's pretty easy to go to ChatGPT, the app or the website, but it will be immediately accessible to all these Apple users very quickly. And like you're saying, that's probably one of the biggest or most valuable low-hanging fruit for Apple when it comes to these kind of AI features.